The ocean spirit dances today to abundance and joy and to eternal peace.
See, this is what we're hoping for. This is part of our hope. Not only that we are members of the elect with fruits meet for repentance, like John the Baptist said, but from our low estate, because we've been brought low, even though we have this knowledge, we have this truth. Remember what it said in Revelation. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Why are we rich? Because we're rich in faith. We have this knowledge. So our hope is at our last end, we're going to be increased. Okay? And if you ask me, the greatest riches right now is to be delivered by YAHAWASHI, is to get that new body that the Apostle Paul spoke about in 1 Corinthians 15th chapter, to get that, get that new body where we'll never be sick, we'll be immortals, like it said in 1 Corinthians 15, to be delivered from the coming destruction, and to be a part of YAHAWASHI's cabinet in the next kingdom. Okay, those are the real riches right now. That's what we want to get. Because if you get that, you got everything. I mean, you got everything. Okay, so our sights are set a lot higher than this present world. All right, as it is written, the fashion of this world shall pass away. We are individuals of vision, and the scripture said where an individual lacks vision, he perishes. Okay, so we can see the future. All right, and we hope that we're going to be part of it, beginning with the elect.
This entire universe belongs to you, my son.
And we're going to fully have power over the elements. You know, the way we're going to build things, you know, the ingenuity, the creativity. All right? Being able to build with the vibration of sound, you know, being able to move boulders with our mind, you know, the kingdom will be far out, man. Our water systems, our irrigation systems, you know, clean water, clean air, you know, can only imagine it, man. But it's not a fantasy, you know, it's going to be a reality. But such a massive reality that it's going to be surreal. Okay? This kingdom that's coming is going to be surreal, man. Okay? And the Heavenly Father's only doing this for his people, but he's doing it really to magnify his name. You know? And he's going to put his name on us forever. Okay? We're going to be named after YAHAWASHI forever. Okay? But it's going to be a manifest token that we are the people of the Heavenly Father. All right? Streets of gold. You know, the foundation stones of the kingdom. Made of all manner of precious stones. It's all evidence that we are the people of the Heavenly Father. He hasn't done this for anyone else. Okay? And we'll be able to branch out into these different distant galaxies within the universe. Okay? We'll have some insight into the Father's house, which is the universe, which is unlimited. We're gonna have unlimited access to the Heavenly Father's house. All right? And you can't limit the Heavenly Father. You know? You hope for elect out there, you'll have access to the chariots. You'll have access to these different planets within these galaxies, within the universe. Or maybe Yahweh through YAHAWASHI finds you so well pleasing that he decides to give you your own galaxy. Once again, you can't limit YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI, man. Okay? Everything within our kingdom is going to raise your vibration, raise your spirit. Okay? That's the kingdom that we're looking forward to, man. Constant building, constant healing, constant praising YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI. So with that, I want to give all praises to our power, our Father, Kahalayla, Alahayanawa, Abanawa, Yahawah, Basham Yahushai, Basham Rakakwadash. Double honor unto our apostles and elder bishops, a great millstone, still well, and strong, Yasharala, we almost home. Shalom.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Makakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders, GMS, who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards young brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful like out there pushing his word and truth, and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Makakodash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful like the believers and listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI. All right, was another wonderful day. It is to get into the prophecies. All right, morning news and prophecy edition, and we're gonna go into is how war and technocracy will lead to YAHAWASHI. And that's the main two prophecies that we're watching. We know the prophecy surrounding the technocracy is going to also bring in civil unrest, famine. Okay, it's going to bring in, extreme violence. All right, a lot of bloodshed. Okay, it's going to bring in, divisions amongst the people. All right, mercenaries. All the things that the scriptures speak about: the persecution of the prophets, the famine of the word. All this going to be rolled into the devil attempting to set up a technocracy, man. Okay, and once he gets to a certain point with the technocracy, we know the Lord is going to allow this war, all right, to escalate and go nuclear. America will be turned to a desert, and it will usher in, all right, YAHAWASHI and the heavenly host to destroy the militaries of the earth. Okay, so everything that we're seeing happening, is leading to the headline of prophecy, which is our great King, all right, our Savior, YAHAWASHI. So we're living in some very crucial times, but some beautiful times as well. All right. And the Lord has raised up the prophets in these last days. So our people, all right, the elect of our people won't be in the blind. Okay. We're being fed with understanding in these last days. Okay. We've been fed with instruction. We're being informed, all right, by watchmen, letting us know where we at in prophecy, man. Okay. So let's go to some precepts, and if a brother could post that second Ezra chapter 9 verses 1 through 5, Bible show. Okay. Well, let's start out here. Let's get this in the book of Jeremiah. All right, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 28, and verse 8. It said, the prophet that has been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. Okay, so what we're doing, the Lord has raised the prophets up in this day, and we're doing the same thing. We'll continue on the legacy of our forefathers. Okay, before the Lord, took down Egypt, where he raised up Moses as a prophet. Okay, before he took down, even he took us down, the northern and southern kingdom, where he raised up prophets that gave warning. Before the northern tribes went into captivity, there was prophets that was giving warning. Okay, Jeremiah, he was around during the time of the exile of the southern tribes by the Babylonians. You know, and he was giving warning. And then Daniel, he prophesied about the rise and downfall of many kingdoms, from the Syrian Babylonian Empire to the Romans, all right, the Greeks, the Romans, you see, the Medo-Persians, and even the revival of Rome, okay, in this little horn of America, So Daniel spoke about what empires, the rise and fall of empires, man, okay, and we know that the American empire is on the way out, okay, as we look out and see how, Esau Edom is trying to establish a technocracy, but in the midst of it, he's declining in power. Okay, and that's why we're going to see more desperation from Esau. Okay, because right as he gets to the moment where he's trying to extend his empire, he's beginning to decline. Okay, and he's having a hard time to maintain power. Okay, these nations are beginning to become emboldened and come up against this devil. All right, his allies are not coming to his aid like they once did. Okay, there's a revolt, against his technology. You have this anti-tech movement. Okay, the data center protest. So Esau Edom is going to begin to move with a lot of desperation, man. Okay, and he's going to wreak havoc on the masses. Because the Lord is provoking Esau to anger, because the Lord wants to use Esau as a tool of judgment on the left-hand side. Okay, he wants Esau to bring mass famine. Okay, he wants, the mercenaries, the civil unrest, all right, the pestilence. The Lord wants these things, and he's going to use Esau as a tool, as Esau on the way out. So the Lord is going to make good use of this nigga, all right, for judgment as he's on his way out, man. And he set the prophets up to speak on these things. All right, now let's go from there, because everything is appointed. Judgment and mercy is appointed. All right, and it just a thing of coming into those times. Every day is a step closer to an appointment with prophecy. Okay, there's already a set day when the Lord has it to where it will be a famine of the word. We won't be able to teach anymore. It's already a set day, and every day just a step closer to that appointment. Okay, it's already a set day for the devil mandate to see him. It's an appointed time. It's just a thing about getting to that time. Okay, well, all these things are appointed, and when you read Jeremiah 15:1, then said the Lord unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind could not be toward this people. Cast them out of my sight and let them go forth. And this is 2/3 of our people, man. Okay, which refuse. All right, because Moses and Samuel were what? Mediators. Okay, well, who's the mediator now? YAHAWASHI, between us and the Heavenly Father. Okay, and as the Lord has, privileged us with a grace period in these last days, okay, and has given us the understanding to teach YAHAWASHI, well, there's a remnant that will get it, okay, and the Lord will have mercy on, but then there's 2/3 that wouldn't, okay, that will reject the mediator. And for that, there's no hedge for Jacob, man. The Lord's mind is not even towards 2/3 right now. That's why he told us not to put emphasis on them. That's why Archangel Uriel told Ezra, look, don't over worry yourself with them niggas, man. Don't even be concerned about them niggas, man. Okay? They allotted, they in their lot of judgment. Okay, just worry about those that are like-minded, like you. That's what Archangel Uriel kept driving on that. Ezra, look, worry about those who like you, man. Don't worry about 2/3 that don't believe. You know, the unbelievers, the scoffers, the mockers. Don't worry about them. Okay? And the Lord, all right, is finna cast them out of his sight and just let them go forth and just let them run into this judgment, man. You see, the Lord is getting ready to let Jake just run head first into the judgment. You see, and it says in verse 2, it says, "And it shall come to pass, if they shall say, whither shall we go forth? Then thou shalt tell them, thus saith the Lord, YAHAWASHI, such is for death to death, and such is for the sword to the sword, and such is for the famine to the famine, and such is for the captivity to the captivity." Okay? So we in this time where we're going to see death, famine, you know, this captivity, these concentration camps. All right, it's going to be torture camps. Okay, the sword, you know, all the way from, you know, handgun, you know, to a nuke and everything in between. Okay, because that sword, it's a vague judgment. Okay, so we're finna see judgment, you know, really open up in the earth, man. And the Lord is agitating Esau to wild out. You see, the Lord is intentionally agitating Esau so he can wild out here, man. You know, so he can just throw everything at this technocracy, man. Okay? Esau is going to attempt this technocracy in a raging fit. Okay? He's not going to be cool, calm, and collected trying to put this thing together. No, he's going to be in a raging fit, man. Okay? Which is going to cause him, okay, to terrorize the population, especially here in America, man. Okay? It says, "And I will appoint over them 4 kinds, said the Lord, YAHAWASHI, the sword to slay, and dogs to tear, and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy," man. And we're going to see these things, man. We're going to see the Lord get busy in the earth, man. That's why the Lord is making our spirit cold. Okay? He's making us numb to the emotions and the attachments of this world, because we're going to see judgment. You see? Before YAHAWASHI, man, it's going to be a lot of gruesome judgment before we see them chariots, man. You know, Lord, will we endure in the midst of this, because as the devil is going to be rolling. All right, let's go here to Isaiah 59. We can't, you know, sleep on the power, you know, that the Lord has promised his men. You see, because we're going to need it. When you go to Isaiah 59:19, says, "So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of the Lord, YAHAWASHI, shall lift up a standard against him." Okay? So there's a standard that's going to be lifted when this devil, because we're going to be in the midst of this devil, all right, having his way with Jake and Jacob's trouble. Okay? But when he makes his move towards the prophets, towards the believers, well, there's a standard that's promised, man. Okay, it's going to be lifted. You see? So we come to a time where a standard going to be lifted. And all these events that's going on in the midst of the chaos, man, the Lord going to lift a standard against this devil, man. You see? Because the Lord God to where he's being countered by prophecy. Esau is being countered by prophecy, man. His agenda is starting to meet, okay, prophecy. You see, he went into Iran for the sake of regime change, okay, taking resources, but he ran into what? Prophecy. Okay? He ran into the scriptures that speak about this alliance, a nation that was going to take Babylon down. Okay? That's why you see, you know, the devil, you know, begin to pivot. You know, he's doing a lot of pump faking. Okay? Because he's having to deal with prophecy head on now. You know? And when he, you know, begins to make his move, okay, during Jacob's trouble, he begins to come in like a flood to the tribes, man. In the midst of that, it's going to be a standard lifted, man. And then shall be known who are my chosen. Okay, so let's 'cause I got a few videos I want to get. Let's start getting these precepts, and then pretty short videos I want to get into. Yep. So when you go into the book of Second Ezra, you always get it because this is the times we in. So when you go to the book of Second Ezra, chapter 9, verse 1 says, "He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then thou shalt understand. It is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made." Okay, and this was put up by the brother Yashima tribe of Judah. So we know that we're very well in the time of the Lord's visitation. And it goes back to the point how war and technocracy will lead to YAHAWASHI, because the ultimate visitation is YAHAWASHI. Okay, that's why YAHAWASHI said he's coming with the glory of his Father, the angels, and himself, man. You see, YAHAWASHI is coming with all that power from the spiritual realm to execute judgment in the earth, man. That's the closest the earth is going to get to a direct visitation from the Most High himself, man. It's him sending his son, okay, to visit this place with judgment. You know, and it's going to be at the climax of this war and technocracy, man. You see, 2 Ezra 9:3 said, "Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then thou shalt well understand that the Most High spake of these things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world has a beginning and the end is manifest, man." So the end has manifested itself. Everything is here that's needed for the end. Okay, this devil, he's getting to the point to where he can switch over to a digital currency and mandate, all right, the C-HIP, the RFID chip, which is the MOTB. These nations already have their nuclear arsenals locked and ready to go. Okay, the atmosphere of Jacob's trouble. Okay, you know, Jake is already demonized and looked at as less than human. Okay, and this whole thing with deportations and you know, so all in all, and there's more, but everything is here for the end to be manifested. The end has manifested itself, man. Okay, all the pieces in places. There's now the timing of the Lord. You know, right now is just the timing of the Lord. Now, let's go from there. Let's get this video first. All right. Because the earth is rising up against Edom, man, especially these small hats, man. Okay, so let's play this, and if a brother could post it in Isaiah 32:5 in the NLT. So this is over here in Greece, okay, and you have these pro-Palestinian protests, okay, and they're becoming hostile against these small hats, man. Okay, and also the one in Isaiah 13, which speaks about the devil being like a chase rope. We like Isaiah 13 and 11, 12 in there, you know. And Jeremiah 49:15, Bible shot. But let's play this real quick. And this is becoming normal, you know. All this time, these small hats been proclaimed to be the victim. Well, it's coming to the point to where, you know, hey, being a small hat ain't, hey, you know, you gotta watch what you say, but hey, the victim role that they love to play, well, they're talking themselves into their reality, man. So let's play this.
Athens erupted into a tense scene on Sunday as hundreds of pro-Palestinian demonstrators confronted Israeli citizens, waving Palestinian flags and chanting for freedom for Palestine during a nationwide day of protests over the Gaza war. The march saw the heated confrontation between demonstrators and Israeli tourists, with the two groups exchanging angry gestures before protesters pushed the Israeli tourists away, according to footage from the scene. The march moved through central Athens and past the Greek parliament, with police escorting the march, controlling crowds and closing sections of roads to traffic. Protesters carried banners and a large Palestinian flag while chanting "Freedom to Palestine." The action was part of a broader campaign organized by March to Gaza Greece, BDS Greece, the Palestinian Community of Greece, and other groups, with rallies planned in cities, islands, and villages across the country. Protester Despina Lada said the demonstrators were supporting Palestinians, whom she described as having resisted for decades. Another protester, Maria Anastasiou, said the Palestinian struggle gave participants courage and called for continued support for the Palestinian people.
It is deeply moving, and in any case, it gives us the courage to continue this long struggle, to stand firmly by the side of the people of Palestine. May there be freedom for all of Palestine.
And I want to fast forward to a point where they really start getting at these small hats. But as you can see, there's a uptick in people calling these small hats out, man. And these people, now the earth is looking at the small hats as the problem. Okay, Edomites in general, but then there's a spotlight on Edom, but then there's an emphasis on these small hats, man. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to where they really get into these small hats. Let me see.
Impose sanctions and an arms embargo on Israel and end military cooperation with the country. Israel rejects accusations that it is committing genocide, saying its military campaign targets Hamas and allied groups, a claim trashed by independent international bodies.
Just one day after Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and nuclear-armed Pakistan created a NATO-style defense alliance, Pakistan's defense minister has publicly identified Israel as a threat to the entire Muslim world and called for a united military front against it. Waja Asif said Muslim countries must set aside their divisions and confront what he described as a common danger. In the context of Israel, all Muslim countries must unite. I have no doubt about this, Asif said during an interview with a Pakistani news outlet. He described Israel as an illegitimate product of the Balfour Declaration, opposed to any country in the region. The Balfour Declaration was issued by Britain in 1917 and expressed support for establishing a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. Israel was subsequently founded in 1948. Asif argued that Pakistan's opposition is not limited to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu or Israel's present government. He said even if Netanyahu loses Israel's October election, the country's approach towards Palestinians and the wider Muslim world would change only marginally. The Pakistani minister accused Israel of inciting Muslim countries against one another and said the Islamic world must remain united until the Palestinian question is permanently resolved. His remarks carry added strategic weight because they came immediately after the signing of the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement. That pact states that an armed attack against Saudi Arabia, Turkey, or Pakistan will be regarded as an attack against all three. It combines Saudi financial power, Turkey's large and experienced military, and Pakistan's nuclear capability under a single collective defense framework.
And see, when you look at that alliance it just made between Turkey, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, now the small hats have recently threatened all three of those nations, man. You know, and you see the defense men in Pakistan like, look, we as Muslims need to come together, man. You know, and have a military front against the small hats, man. Okay? So everything that the Bible spoke about, the Iranians, because Iran jumped it off, you know, and they're looking at Iran get out on America, they get off there, and they see that Iran has deterred the small hats. Okay? So now these other Muslim nations like, look, we all need to make a militant front against these small hats, man. Okay? Which are always going to play into what? The escalation of war. You see? These nations are becoming emboldened. The Lord is waking up the mighty men. Okay? As the scriptures speak about. Okay? So let's get this real quick. This is the brother you call. All right, this is brother you call Hopeful 144. It says, in that day, ungodly fools will not be heroes. Scoundrels will not be respected. Okay, scoundrels will not be respected, man. Okay, so now the earth is looking at the small hat as the problem. Okay, they're being called out on all different platforms. See, the anti-Semitism rhetoric ain't working anymore. The playing victim ain't working anymore. Okay, the Lord is taking the veil off Esau, and he's taking that you know, that covering off of Cain. You know, Cain was able to just wild out. You know, Cain couldn't be avenged. You see, well, the Lord is starting taking that cover off Esau, man. Okay, so now he can get hit back. You see, so let's play a little more of this.
The agreement itself does not identify Israel or any other state as an adversary. Saudi Arabia and Turkey have also not publicly endorsed Asif's call for a military front against Israel. The distinction is crucial. Israel maintains diplomatic relations with Israel despite deep political tensions, while Saudi Arabia has previously considered normalizing relations under the US-backed Abraham Accords. Pakistan does not recognize Israel and has consistently linked any change in that position to the creation of a viable Palestinian state. But the regional landscape has shifted dramatically. Israel's military operations in Gaza, attacks across Lebanon and Syria, and its war with Iran have intensified demands for Muslim states to move beyond statements of condemnation. Asif has previously used even stronger language against Israel, calling it evil, a curse for humanity, and a cancerous state. His latest intervention suggests Pakistan now sees the Mecca Pact as a possible foundation for a broader Muslim security bloc. For Israel, that prospect would present a vastly different strategic equation. The new alliance includes a NATO member, the custodian of Islam's two holiest sites, and the Muslim world's only declared nuclear power.
Instead of buying a whole house, you buy shares in an offering that holds a brand new single-family rental home.
The Mecca Agreement was presented as a defensive pact without a named enemy. Barely 24 hours later, Pakistan's defense minister has made clear which threat he believes the Muslim world should unite against.
Right, man. So you got, you know, the dragons of Arabia, you know, beginning to merge together in the military alliance, man, you know, which fulfills what we went into yesterday with Second Esdras, all right, 15. Okay. So you have their prophecy in the making. And then let's go here. Like I said, you got nations, getting more involved. All right. Now you got North Korea sending more troops and missiles to Russia to fight Ukraine. So now it's turning into Russia and North Korea versus Ukraine. Okay. Remember, this is how we get to World War status. Nations getting more directly involved, coming from the background and being more hands-on. Okay. Now let's get this precept. Okay. Because as you can see, walking around the street being a small hat, yeah, that ain't gonna be the play. Isaiah 13:14, it says, and it shall be as the chase rope, and as a sheep, it's from the brother Yashma tribe of Judah. It said, and as a sheep that no man taketh up, it says, they shall every man turn to his own people and flee everyone to his own land. Okay, because everyone is now, because what's happening, we're seeing everybody with their people, for their people. Okay, and everybody, and the problem of the earth is being isolated, which is Esau, Edom. And of Esau, you have Amalek, man. So says it's gonna be a chase rope and a sheep that no man taketh up, which means it's gonna have no protection, man. Okay, we see, all right, that they don't have any defense, okay, against the missile arsenals of these nations. Okay, and pretty soon, all right, hey, being an Edomite, okay, it's gonna be on site. It's getting to the point, the world's getting to the point where, hey, you being an Edomite, it's gonna be on site, man. Okay. All this doing this wickedness and walking around the earth chilling like you innocent. Nah, man, them days gonna be over with, man. Okay, because it's being made known that you are the source of every problem on the planet Earth, man. Okay, you ain't gonna be able to just plead the filth. You see, you ain't gonna be able to filter your way out this one, man. Okay, so let's play this. All right, to show you how more nations, okay, are getting involved, and we just put Joel 3 and 3:9. Yeah, Joel chapter 3 verses 9 through 11. All right.
But first, Russia's war machine could be getting a major reinforcement, and it may be coming from North Korea. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Moscow could be preparing to bring in as many as 50,000 North Korean troops in an effort to fuel the conflict, which is already in its fifth year. According to reports, since 2024, Pyongyang has provided anywhere between 11,000 and 14,000 troops to assist Moscow. The latest Ukrainian allegations of increased North Korean support comes as the war continues in full swing. A Russian drone footage released earlier today purportedly shows an attack on Ukraine's Bogrovatoye gas field. Russia's defense ministry, meanwhile, says its forces took control of two more settlements in the Donetsk region on August 9th. The ministry also said Russian forces struck Ukrainian ports and vessels, including targets at the Odessa port. The Ukraine has also continued to strike inside Russia. At least 12 people were reported killed in a Ukrainian drone attack in Russia's Tatarstan region. That was on Monday. That region is home to a major oil refinery. Now, as attacks and counterattacks continue, Ukraine is pointing to the growing role of North Korean weapons. An official at Ukraine's military intelligence reportedly claimed that a North Korean missile unit has begun deploying to Western Russia. According to the official, this unit could be equipped with at least 120 ballistic missiles and 6 launchers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Kyiv has also found debris of North Korean missiles on Ukrainian territory. Zelensky claims Pyongyang's weapons have contributed to Ukrainian casualties earlier as well.
Today, in various cities and regions across the country, cleanup efforts continued all day following the Russian attack. In Lviv, people were clearing debris and searching for survivors. In the Dnipropetrovsk region, in Radushna near Kryvyi Rih, a ballistic missile struck a house, an ordinary home belonging to an ordinary family. The children were killed, as were their parents. It's an alliance between Moscow's scum and the insane regime in North Korea, all for the sake of missiles, for the sake of the North Korean contingent here in Europe, on our borders, and for the sake of killing our Ukrainian children.
Korea is not a new development. In 2024, Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un signed a comprehensive strategic partnership treaty. This was when Putin visited Pyongyang. That pact includes a mutual assistance provision if either country faces external aggression. North Korea's subsequent troop deployment to support Russia was presented as part of that partnership.
This historically forged military alliance between Moscow and Pyongyang was demonstrated most vividly in the Kursk region, where soldiers of the Korean People's Army fought shoulder to shoulder with our troops for Russian soil, as if it were their own, bringing closer its liberation from Ukrainian Nazis and foreign mercenaries at the cost of their own lives.
Yeah, so you got an increase in North Korea involvement, all right, in this front with Russia and Ukraine. Okay, and what happens? You have mission creep. You know, you start to send soldiers there, and soldiers start dying, and you get invested. And this is a way of these countries to get their soldiers, battlefield experience without a full-blown war with their country. So they're sending troops there to get their battlefield experience, and those troops come home, become the leaders and officers of, the military. And then they get to test, their weaponry in real battle, all right, in real war situations. This is what China is doing heavy with Iran, letting them test a lot of their weapons, okay, in real war, all right, scenarios, man. So the nations that's in the back are coming more to the front. Okay, so basically you have actively fighting is Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Okay, fighting against what? This alliance of the West. The small hats, Ukraine and America. You see? So we're just going to continue to watch, and then you have Yemen. Okay, that's on the side of what Iran. So when you look at it, you have 4 nations fighting under the same banner. When you go into Yemen, Iran, all right, North Korea and Russia, those 4 nations, and then you have the Saudis, okay, which eventually they're going to flip, okay, but you have the Saudis, the America, the small hats, and Ukraine. So right now we're looking at a 4-on-4, okay, as this war is beginning to expand. So let's go from there. Let's get this one up. Let's get some of these presets. All right, this is the brother. Let's see. It's the brother servants of YAHAWASHI. This is Joel 3:9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw nigh. Let them come up." Okay, so you're seeing, the mighty men, these militaries are being pulled into this war. Okay, the Lord is constantly activating more nations, okay, to be directly involved in this conflict. You see, it said, "Beat your plowshares into swords." All right, plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, "I'm strong." Assemble yourselves and come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about till it cause your mighty ones to come down, O Lord. So, and what is this war going to lead to? It's going to lead to YAHAWASHI. Matter of fact, if a brother want to put on verse 16 just to get to the point. Okay, it's all lead to YAHAWASHI as you go through all these prophecies. Well, it always results in YAHAWASHI return. Okay, so we're going to constantly see, military buildups. I say more nations getting directly involved all the way. But at the same time that this is happening, this devil is rolling out technocracy. You see that happening simultaneously, man. Okay, and these prophecies of war and technocracy, they're joined at the hip. Okay, and they all lead to the same thing. Okay, which is great judgment, the earth reeling to and fro like a drunkard. Okay, and the ushering in of YAHAWASHI and the heavenly host, man, the deliverance of the elect. So let's go here because there's been a lot of fuss, dealing with the troops on these aircraft carriers. Okay, so let's play a little bit of this.
A U.S. aircraft carrier has now spent 9 months at sea, and military families are raising serious concerns about what sailors are facing on board. Food shortages, moldy showers, broken toilets, and reportedly falling morale. The carrier at the center of the controversy is the USS Abraham Lincoln, currently operating in the Middle East as the war with Iran continues. Around 5,000 sailors and Marines have been serving aboard the carrier for roughly 9 months, and one number stands out. The Lincoln has reportedly spent 208 consecutive days at sea, more than any other U.S. aircraft carrier in the modern era. According to military family members who spoke to MS Now, the crew is exhausted from the long deployment and demanding operational tempo. Families reportedly described long lines for meals, shortages of basic supplies such as soap and toothpaste, broken toilets, mold in showers and laundry facilities that are not working properly. There are also claims of food shortages and a backlog of mail and supplies. The concerns became serious enough that military families confronted Navy leadership this week. According to recordings cited by MS Now, Navy officials acknowledged problems with toilets and said they were working to address shower concerns. They also acknowledged a backlog of food and mail, reportedly because moving supplies from Bahrain to the ship has become more difficult during the war. And this is not the first time food quality aboard the Lincoln has come under scrutiny. Earlier this year, photos reportedly showed sailors being served small portions and unappealing food. That led some members of Congress to call for investigations. The Navy, however, denied that the ships were facing food shortages, saying the USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Tripoli had sufficient food and healthy options for their crews. Now, families are raising another concern: whether prolonged fatigue and poor living conditions could eventually affect safety and performance on board. One family member even claimed that holes had been spotted on the carrier's flight deck, but the Navy's Fifth Fleet spokesperson denied that allegation and said the Lincoln remains fully capable of meeting all mission requirements. The situation also comes after another carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, faced its own quality of life problems during an extended deployment that required repairs in port. For the USS Abraham Lincoln, the key issue now is endurance. The carrier remains in the Middle East, while its sailors continue operating through an unusually long deployment. And as families demand answers, the Navy is insisting that the ship remains operationally capable. But the question being raised is clear: how long can a crew maintain peak performance when the mission keeps going, while basic conditions on board remain a growing concern?
So what you have, all right, and it just speaks also to, the American military, how soft they are, because they're used, because when you in the Navy, for the longest time, America, the Navy was just used to escort, all right, the merchandise of the elites. When you really look at American military, it's nothing but a military for the elites and these oil companies. Okay, so all they did was run routes to protect trade. Okay, they was on there chilling, eating the best food. Okay, stopping at different places, hanging out. Because I talked to a guy that was in the Marines, and he's worked with me. And yeah, he said he went to Iraq. He said when they got done with Iraq, they put him on cruise ships, gave them some money, so they went and stopped in different islands, different places, hung out, so it was like a cruise ship. These aircraft carriers and these different Navy vessels, he said that it was like a cruise ship, an armed cruise ship. Okay, but now that they're in a real war, okay, because they're complaining about the conditions. Well, what about, all right, these people, all right, they have to fight in tunnels, they have to live in tunnels. Okay, they don't see the sun for months. Okay, because they're in those tunnels, you see, and they only can pop out for moments at a time and fight and jump back in those tunnels, man. Okay, so it's a different breed of men in the East, man. Americans are so goddamn pampered. Okay, and they're used to peacetime, because even when America does these regime changes and they go to these certain wars, mainly airstrikes. Okay, everybody else be chilling and the Air Force go on airstrikes, bombing campaigns, and come back. But see, now it's different. Now they're being faced with the threat of these aircraft carriers could be sunk. Okay, these Air Force pilots. Okay, these fighter jet pilots that go on these bombing campaigns, they cannot come back. It's different now. Okay, and see, a lot of places where they dock and restock for supplies, it shows you that Iran has destroyed. They're not going to tell you that Iran has destroyed these warehouses with food. Okay, and these ports where they usually dock and restock, they've been destroyed. Okay, so Iran is just strategically, breaking down the American military, man. So Iran has done heavy damage to the logistics of America to be able to feed its military, man. Because there's a few reports about how Iran was striking these food depots for American military in their region, man. So yeah, Iran is causing havoc, man, for the U.S., man. Okay, so let's see. Yep, let's read this. And I got one more video. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 16. The brother servants of YAHAWASHI. It said the Lord also shall roar out of Zion. So this fighting that we're seeing is going to lead to this. Okay, this war is going to lead to YAHAWASHI. Can't stress it enough. So we go into the details and see. I go into the details because it's a faith booster for me to see the Lord at work. Like I don't go into the details for the sake of bringing out information. It's just a faith booster for me to see the Lord at work. Hopefully it's a faith booster, with y'all. But the smallest things that are being done, I just equate as to the Lord at work. Even with this incident, how the aircraft carriers pretty much facing logistical problems, and we know this due to what? Iran strategic warfare. Well, who got Iran souped up? It's the Most High. This is prophecy speak. So there's prophecy in the details, man. Okay. Now, when you go into Joel 3:16, it says, "The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel." Okay, so in the midst of all this war, eventually YAHAWASHI is going to intervene. And he says he's going to be the strength of his people, Israel. Why? Because that's who's going to fight for us. That's why we don't need a military. You see, our power is on the way. YAHAWASHI in the heavenly host. Okay? So we don't have to take up arms and be militant, okay, and join this carnal fight. No. We have a power that's going to come and intervene, okay, and conquer all the militaries of the earth, man. Destroy all the militaries of the earth and conquer all the people. Okay, and he's going to be the strength of the children of Israel, man. Our power is going to be seen at the climax of this thing, man. Okay, and it's beautiful to see it play out. Now, I want to segue here on another note dealing with the technocracy aspect, you know. So when you go here, let's see, yep. So let's play this, you know, and this devil might got something up his sleeve, you know, as far as this energy thing, you know, yet to see, you know, we ain't seen it yet, so I ain't giving that nigga no credit. But the nigga might have something up his sleeve for his energy, for the data centers, which I listened to this yesterday and I said, you know, it made you say, well, let's play this. All right.
Because, you know, my mantra has been your energy system and your financial systems are tied, because the financial system is always a mirror of the physics of your energy system. If you're dealing with a closed system of energy, in other words, you're dealing with non-renewable energy resources, that's the kind of financial system you'll have. And you can play havoc and make a lot of money, as we've seen under the central bank model. The problem is if you go to a system of energy that is more or less open, and here's the key part of it, easy, more or less easy to engineer, your financial system will follow suit, and you're dealing with a system that potentially bankers cannot control. They cannot manipulate it.
Right.
This is the problem they've always had. So what has been the delay in bringing out this type of energy, be it fusion energy or 0 point energy or what have you? What has been the problem? Well, in Babylon's Banksters, in that book, I argued, and
so he wrote a book called Babylon Banksters. Okay, and just to kind of sum up what he's getting into, you know, there's different energies out there, all right, that's beyond, you know, petrol. Okay, but he's going into these devils having unleashed it because they want to get control. They want to be able to track and control everyone, you know, so people won't have access to, you know, this type of energy, because then they're not able to manipulate. See, they can manipulate, okay, this petrol energy, the oil. You know, they can cause a crisis. You know, they can, you know, start wars. They can, you know, they can manipulate the market, the economy, you know, because they control all the infrastructure for the oil, for the energy. Okay. But it's another energy that Nikola Tesla came up with. We're going to get into him a little bit, but it's another energy that Nikola Tesla came up with, all right, that was wireless. And it would have been easy for the common, all right, the common person, okay, to engineer that energy for themselves. Okay. So these devils, they haven't unleashed that energy because they want to lock in. His theory, he speculates that they don't want to release that energy because they want to lock in this control grid first. So this energy won't go haywire. They can still be the monopoly of even the wireless energy. Okay. So let's play a little more of this. He's going to explain some more.
And I still believe this, that we had that kind of system of energy with Tesla's wireless power system. Right. And the story is always told that J.P. Morgan put the end to that system because he complained he couldn't meter it and thus make any money from it. Well, that's a bunch of poppycock, because J.P. Morgan stood to make a fortune from the licensing fees and royalties that he would have had sponsoring Tesla as his financial backer. So why did he pull the plug? He pulled the plug, in my opinion, because they realized, once they understood how simple Tesla's system really was, that anybody with a junior high or high school degree and education in physics, anybody could engineer a similar system.
Right, and get out of control.
And the other problem was that Tesla slowly began to disclose that his system could be a very powerful weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the ability to engineer a simple system and turn it into a very powerful weapon, you've got a proliferation problem. So they could not bring this system out until they had a surveillance grid adequate to the task of tracking everybody and making sure that they're not buying supplies to build a system like that. Right. Or, you know, think of the Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon problem, and multiply that by every garage in America with a kid in junior high or high school that is taking a degree in electronics or what have you and wants to play around with those types of systems. That's a proliferation nightmare. This is why they stopped it.
And we see the oil price dropping dramatically despite that. Now there rumors are there huge shorts in the market, but something doesn't make sense. In other words, if you look at the conduct of this war, somebody feels like they don't need oil.
And let's add to that something else that is happening in this country, in the United States particularly, with all of these artificial intelligence data centers that they're trying to build out. More and more now, the opposition to artificial intelligence centers is happening at a local level when people find out the energy costs.
Right.
So what's happening where I'm at is that many of these companies that want to build data centers around my region are telling the state, we'll build our own power supply and we will not be on your power grid at all. And therefore, your energy prices for the average consumer will stay the same. Now, I strongly suspect that that's poppycock, because they are going to have to do something with that excess power. So why not plug it into the grid?
Right.
And sell it?
Right.
The key thing here is, as you know, these data centers, as you've put it several times, use more energy than a Panzer division. And if that's the case, and they're going to build out their own power supply, that tells me they've got some sort of trick up their sleeve for that power. Right. Whether it's a local tiny thorium reactor or fusion power or something even more exotic, I don't know. But I think you're absolutely correct. The AI data centers are the key here to telling us that they keep telling us the current power grid is inadequate to power these things. Well, then why are we building them? Well, they're building them, and they've let the cat out of the bag now. We've got our own power sources, and we're going to use them to build these data centers to keep surveillance and tabs on everybody else. That's exactly what's going on. They've got something up their sleeve.
Could be, could be these devils, because they're going to have something, to power all these data centers. Now, when you go into what he spoke about with Nikola Tesla, it's an interesting story, dealing with Nikola Tesla. Okay. So when you go to, just real quick, I said, what was Tesla wireless energy? It says Tesla, all right, wireless energy was Nikola Tesla's ambitious late 19th and early 20th century system designed to transmit electricity globally through the earth and the atmosphere without using power lines. All right. It says how the system worked. Tesla invented a special high voltage, high frequency transformer that could light up vacuum bulbs a short distance away through the air. Okay. So he was able to have wireless electricity, man. This was a Jake, this guy Nikola Tesla. Okay. But yeah, he had came up with wireless energy, to where he could create frequency that could light up, and send electricity through the air. It says he believed that by pumping electrical charges directly into the ground at specific frequencies, energy will ripple through the planet and can be pulled out anywhere using tuned receivers. Oh man. So it was like he was going to push a lot of energy into the earth, and then people will have access. It's almost like a well. You dig into the ground and you hit water, and now you got a constant well because that water is flowing under the ground. So you got a constant source of water because that water is flowing. Well, he had came up with the technology to do the same thing with electricity, pump electricity into the ground, and then people could tap into the ground and create a funnel of electricity that comes through the ground. And that would have been wireless electricity without the wires. And then people could engineer it themselves, man. People would have learned and engineered it themselves, man, and that would have took away the dependency on oil. Okay, but Esau, because he had the monopoly on the oil, he wanted to keep people on oil. He wanted to keep the world on oil. Okay, the petro energy, man. Okay, it says Earth resonance. It says he believed that by pumping electrical charge into the ground, a specific, it says, so now we know that, let's go here, because, okay, what happened to Nikola Tesla? All right, because we have to remember, guess who went and gathered all Nikola Tesla's research, when he died. Okay, so when you go here, it says this AI overview. It says Donald Trump's late uncle, MIT electrical engineer John G. Trump, did not have a personal relationship with Nikola Tesla. Instead, he was called by the U.S. government to evaluate Tesla's scientific papers and belongings immediately after the inventor died in 1943. Nikola Tesla died alone in the New York City hotel room on January 6, 1943, at age 86. They got him out of there. It says seizures of paper. It says, fearing that Tesla's rumored high voltage death ray particle beam weapon might fall into enemy hands during World War II, the Office of Alien Property Custodian and the FBI seized his belongings. Calling John Trump, it says officials needed an expert in high voltage. Officials needed an expert in high voltage and direct current electrical equipment to vet the materials. They selected John G. Trump, who was then a researcher and professor, man. So you had Donald Trump uncle, was the one to retrieve Tesla's research papers. Okay, showing you how Trump is juiced in. All right, and then you have Elon Musk, which he calls his company Tesla, which his grandfather on his mother's side, was one of the founders of the Technocracy movement in the 1930s. Okay, which was in Canada and America. All right, so you have, these people now, the nephews and grandchildren, okay, of these particular men that was in these circles now, all right, at the forefront of leadership, okay, in the nation, man. You see? So these devils, the scriptures say, man, that the devil, was going to, if possible, he would deceive the very elect, man. So, we'll see if this devil got some up his sleeve to power these data centers, man. But it all worked for our favor. You know, everything worked for our favor, man, because we know the closer he get to flipping that switch to this new system, the closer we get to getting out of him, man. Okay, because both prophecies lead to YAHAWASHI. Okay, so let's see. Matter of fact, let's just go here to Psalm, second chapter, verse 6. It's the book of Psalm, chapter 2, starting at 1. It says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? You know, so the elites, as they, you know, started this war for a global reset, you know, and to forward their technocracy. Okay, it's a vain thing. You know, they got these other nations on board, all right, and they're fighting, you know, for control of the system. But these nations agree, okay, with this system, the digital technocracy, man. Okay, it said the kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. All right, because Esau has these heathens hyped up as if he has, you know, he's able to build, okay, a new world order that isn't subjugated to the Most High. You know, as if he can take over the Most High's day-to-day operations with technology. Okay, if he can merge you with a machine, which will make you not subjugated to, you know, the Most High, because it's something that he created. You see, this is the mad man psychology of Esau. This is the reasoning of the devil, man. You know, and these nations, all right, have joined in. You know, they embarked on this. You see, this rebellion with Esau. Okay, now they're beginning, you know, to fight and scuffle over the control and, you know, who's going to have, you know, certain leverage and authority within it. All right, but all of them have agreed to it. Okay, it says, he that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall have them in derision. Yeah, see, this is, I say, comical to our power. You know, because they're dead serious about this. Like, they're dead serious, like, nigga, this technology, technocracy, we're going to be able to read everybody's thoughts. We're going to be like the Most High. We're going to be able to see. We're going to be able to control. We're going to, you know, smart cities. You know, we're going to be able to know people's thought, you know, thought crime. No one can never rise up. Okay. The earth to be ours forever. You know, we're going to, you know, get a chance to experiment with immortality. Like, they're dead serious about this, man. And this is a joke to the Most High. And as we look at it, it should be comical to us, man. Okay, the base man of the earth trying to be the Most High. Okay, and the only reason that he's looked at in a particular way because our power propped him up. This devil think he's going to replace the power that gave him power. Okay, and the Most High's power can't even be, you know, measured. You see, he gave, you know, a drop of a bucket. He gave Esau a drop of a bucket. Okay, of power. And it's unlimited buckets. So he, imagine you got unlimited buckets of water, unlimited. You can't measure it, just keep going on and on. Okay, and then you give someone, all right, a drop out of one of those buckets. Okay, that's what the Lord did with Esau. That's the power that the Lord gave Esau. He gave him a little droplet out of a bucket, and Esau lost his goddamn mind. You see. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure. And that's going to be what the climax of this war. That's why he's going to let this war continue to escalate, because he's going to speak in his wrath at the climax of this war through the nukes and through YAHAWASHI and the heavenly host. Okay, and what is going to bring? Yet have I set my king, YAHAWASHI, upon my holy hill of Zion. So all this plotting and scheming and this technocracy and, you know, the war and this and that, and it's all leading to YAHAWASHI being established as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords in the earth, man. Okay, that's what everything is. That's what every avenue leads to, man. Okay, that same outcome. So, that's the point. You know, we'll leave it there. You know, Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, YAHAWASHI, Bahashem, Makakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards other brothers. And peace and blessings, salutation to the hopeful, like Shalom.